My name is Monk Rowe for the Phileas Jazz Archive, and we are from one coast to the next. Happy to have David Friesen here with me this afternoon, bassist and composer. Welcome, sir.
It's good to be here. Good to meet you, Monk.
I was going to start off with I have the Grove Dictionary of Jazz and the All Music Guide to Jazz, and you are mentioned in both of them. And I was going to read an excerpt, but then I thought, what if you had the opportunity to write your own entry for the Grove Dictionary of Jazz? How would you use to describe your music? What would you say succinctly to sort of sum up your philosophy about music?
Well, music for me, playing music for me, is to show forth the glory of God, not by my power, but by his power, and not for my glory, but for his glory. And the concept is jazz. I'm a jazz musician, I'm an improviser. But in terms of music and why I am doing what I'm doing, that was it.
Was your faith in place as a child before you became a professional musician?
Well, I was raised, it's interesting. My sister and I were raised in a home. My parents were married for, I think, 60 years before my mom passed. Um, my dad was a Christian. My mom was Jewish, came from the Russia, a Russian Jew. And so I went to Jewish temple in the beginning, but then my on the way to Sunday, the Jewish Sunday school, my dad would preach Christ to me, and when I got to the Jewish synagogue, they didn't want to hear about that. But what it did, it gave me something happened. They gave me the freedom of choice, where I wasn't going to be manipulated to believe one way or another. Whatever happened, however the Lord intervened.
Do you think that
Go ahead.
that freedom of choice early on, like that, with such an important subject, helped you form a way of being as a musician with making significant choices that would suit you?
Yeah, I think we're all affected by what happens to us in life. Every little detail of how we live, or you know, I was going to say imposes its way into our psyche, but that sounds a little negative. Everything we do in life, whether we're shopping for groceries or whatever, inside this flesh is a spirit. And I'm no different now than when I'm playing music. It's the same spirit. So whatever I collect in my life when I'm not playing my instrument comes out when I am playing my instrument.
No, Maria Schneider said something along those lines. She encouraged her students to not be so one-sided about just music, like live your life. And you have to be a full person in order to create something meaningful.
Yeah, that's right. In my situation, when I became when I made a commitment to Christianity, to Christ, then there's a scripture that says, "I know my sheep, and my sheep know my voice. No man can pluck them out of my hand." Um, my life was following the Lord, and so I could do choices I made. I could make with confidence in my life. It wasn't just haphazard. There was Jesus is called the light of the world. So I don't think of my faith as a feeling. when I think of feeling, I think of a blind man reaching out, feeling his way through life. But Christ is called the light of the world. So when the light's turned on, I can see where I'm walking. I can see where I'm going.
Nice. I was looking at the list of folks you've played with, and I'm going to do a quick saxophone player list. John Handy, Sam Rivers, Michael Brecker, Joe Henderson, Johnny Griffin, Stan Getz, Dexter Gordon, and on and on. And being a saxophone player, I'm wondering if these gentlemen asked for different things or demanded different things from you as a bassist. Do you recall it being different playing with Johnny Griffin as it was for Stan Getz, or how did you adjust?
Well, you adjust to the music being played. And in other words, I don't go on with the concept that I should play this way or that way. My philosophy about this music is this: everything we learn in the practice room, we practice chord skill relationships, technique, all the things we learn there should give us the freedom to be able to take our eyes off ourselves, listen, and respond creatively to what we're hearing. So rather than going, because a lot of times if a leader says, like for instance, in my groups, I tell them I don't tell them to do anything. I have really great players and I don't want to quench their personalities. So I say, they just listen and respond creatively to what's going on. They make their own decisions. And I had that luxury playing with these great players. I just listened and responded to what I heard. If I was supposed to play a certain way, it would quench that spontaneity inside of myself. So I'd be adhering to what they wanted me to do as opposed to what I was hearing in the music and where it was leading me.
Have you ever had a sideman band member who would, after a gig, say, well, David, am I doing what you want?
Yeah, it's funny. When I did the album Amber Skies, that was exactly what Chick Corea asked me. He said, David, am I playing the music the way you want? And I told Chick, I says, I picked you because of the way you play. I want you to bring into the music whatever you hear. There's no rules or regulations here. It's just about all listening. Yeah. Paul Motion on that gig, I didn't even give him music. He says, where's my music? I says, I don't give drummers music. Just listen, Paul.
You know, I noticed that in the videos, I've seen some videos of you, and the drummer didn't have a stand, and most of the time you did not have a music stand. So my assumption was that most of the music you were playing was yours. Was your composition.
It is mine, but I do need a stand. I've got to have a map in front of me because I've written, I think I have something like 700 pieces of music on record or CDs, and I can't remember everything. So I always have, and I'm writing music all the time. So no, I need a map up there for myself. Most of the things videos I see, I do see myself with a music stand.
Okay. When you say a map, is that different than when we think of a chart filled with notes and instructions? Is your map?
That I call it a map.
Okay.
It's the chord changes. It's the tune and the chords to it. Yeah.
All right.
I just called it a map. I didn't want to confuse you. Sorry.
That's okay. I wanted to see if I could compare a couple of your compositions. If we go way back to 1976, and you recorded the duet and dialogue. Um, I think the entry that I had that I was going to read from the Grove had this sentence: his experimentation with techniques may be heard on duet and dialogue, where he plays with the bow and plucks the strings with both hands. It seemed to me that you had something pretty innovative there, almost like Stanley Jordan when he did his guitar thing. Um, if you compare that with your compositions from This Light Has No Darkness, do you have a feeling about how your life has changed since then, and has it found its way into the compositions?
Well, I'm sure it has. I don't think about things like that. Um, if I'm understanding your question clearly, I don't. I really don't think about things like that. I It's important for me to stay in the moment, and so I won't spend time. Yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question correctly, but I don't consider that or think about that or plan for that. I just I when it's time to feed the dogs, I feed the dogs. When it's time to I just don't spend time. My time musically is spent. I've been playing a lot of piano lately and practicing piano. So I'll play piano for a couple hours each day, and I'll run through a lot of heads on the bass so I can play them clearly. A lot of the music I write is difficult, and I have to learn how to play it. So I will practice on the bass, playing the heads, things like that. But there's a limit. There's almost like a red flag goes off that says, David, you're spending too much time on this, and it's going to lock you into a certain way of playing. Give it some space, just trust. You've got the technique to play it. So things like that. But that's about the only involvement I get in terms of thinking about the music. Actually, it all happens on the bandstand. That's where the main practicing takes place. Is on the bandstand and learning to listen and respond creatively to what I hear. And a lot of times, what I hear and what I should play with what I'm hearing falters somewhat on the bandstand because it takes me in places I've never been before. So there's a type of practicing on the bandstand,
If you ask the average, which
and it's not right or wrong what I do. It's what I do. Everyone has a different system. Everyone has a different way of relating to the music, and it's not right or wrong. It's just the way that person. There are many, many different ways of playing this music, going through the obstacle course.
that was a bit of ESP right there, because I was just going to ask you about right and wrong. The average jazz musician these days will say there's no such thing as a mistake. It's simply how you deal with it. And I wondered if you ever, while you're playing, think almost separately about what is my audience hearing? Do I want to play in a manner that I'm cognizant of what people in the audience are hearing?
The only time, of course, when I'm playing, my mind, my ears, my whole soul is, I've trained myself to listen and respond creatively to what I'm hearing. I have in my little book, I wrote, listening is my life preserver in the ocean of sound. Without it, I drown. And so I'm continually doing that. The times I do think about the audience is if I have a composition and I play it And now, if there's an audience, I've played where there's been no audience, but this is when there is an audience. I can hear how they respond. I listen to how they respond to the piece that's just been played, and I can think, oh yeah, they like this one. Well, I'm going to use this one on the next gig, and I'll see how they respond to that. But that's when I'll think about the audience.
Okay.
But I never think about. I don't have time to think about them when I'm like today. I was at the piano playing, and I suddenly realized that we were going to be doing the interview. So I went and looked. Oh, I'm 4 minutes late. I get involved with what I'm doing. And I had a film crew come to my house once. They were doing a segment on a local television about artists. And they said, "No, David, just go ahead and do what you're doing, and we'll take care of everything." And I was at the piano writing a new tune, and after a while, I felt someone tap me on the shoulder and said, "Hello, David." And I looked, and I was kind of surprised there were people there, but then I remembered,
I think I might have
I've trained myself.
part of that. Did that person? I think you told that person, if it was the same video, that you sort of get a message that there's a song waiting for you at the piano. Yeah. Just go there and
yes,
yeah,
find it, right? Yeah, exactly.
I wish someone would tell me to do that.
Well, you play saxophone. Do you play tenor or alto?
I play alto mostly, but I also play the piano. So usually I write at the piano and, see what's
all there. The harmonies right there. So
yeah.
I can call you up until you go to the piano if you like.
Just send me a text.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we're going to play a little name this famous memorable bass line. Okay.
Oh, boy. Is this something I played?
Oh, I'm not going to tell you.
Oh.
How about ba-do 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 ba-do?
Well, that's an easy one. Yeah, that's an
easy one. Okay, how
that's
about
Paul with Miles?
Paul with Miles, yeah. Okay, this one's a struggle for me, but I'll give it a try. Told you it would be hard. What I tried to do earlier today,
interesting,
was write out your bass line to the song Neves.
So that's yeah. That one I know.
How did that come to fruition? Did it just come in your head and or were you just like sort of sitting with your bass messing around?
Yeah, sometimes it is. I'll take my bass out of the corner of the music room and just play time, no changes. I'll count off a tempo and I'll just play time, no changes. I'm improvising, And this has been a process of how I write music. One way that I wrote music. And I would play time, no changes for about 15, 20 minutes. And then I wouldn't listen to it the same day. The next day I would listen to it and get a little bit more of an objective view that way. And I'd hear a lot of garbage. So I would take out the garbage like I do in my home. We have a trash can. But I'd hear something that I liked. And I'd stop the recording. I'd find out, what is that? And then I would write a song based on that idea. So that's one way. Sometimes I'm playing and I'll hear myself play a certain idea, and I'll follow it through, and then another idea may came, like on this tune. Play this figure over and over again, and then find a line that will work with this. And I'll go to the piano and record it, both parts, because I can hear it a little clearer that way. And all the harmony is right there. So I don't have one method of writing music, because there's different things. This one, I think I was just playing and heard this line. I never think I'm going to write in an odd time. I want to write a tune in 7 or 5. I just write the music, and then when I go to put it down, I find sometimes, to my dismay, oh wow, I'm going to have to learn how to play this.
It's funny you say that, because when I was trying to transcribe the line, I was having trouble with "Where's one," and
da ba do da 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 ba do do one da 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 ba do da 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 ba do da ba do da 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 ba do. That's 7. You say?
All right, I suspected as much, but I didn't get very far with it. And at what point do titles?
And it did. And by the way, it did sound. I was going to say that's something I played. The way you sang it and the line sound like something I might have written. So
okay, so
I'm not just saying that, but that's the truth.
I appreciate that. I wasn't that far off.
No, you did well.
Okay. At what point do titles come to you and attach themselves to songs?
Yeah, I have a sheet on my iPhone under notes. And it's funny relationship there, funny pun, notes. It is notes of different titles that come to me, and I write them down. And then I'll have a tune, and it will fit this title. Sometimes the title and the music comes together at the same time, something I haven't written down. So it's different all the time. It's different. Now, This Light Has No Darkness. This is the new album with the 33-piece chamber orchestra program. This was almost like, here's where my music has come to at this point. This a few of my favorite albums are Our Man in Jazz, Sonny Rollins on RCA Victor, Our Man in Jazz, Henry Grimes, Billy Higgins, Don Cherry, and Sonny, of course. The album called Ornette, Scott LaFaro's playing bass on that one, Billy Higgins again. Yeah, Ornette's music and Sonny Rollins. So those are some things I'm listening to a lot. And I play concerts with Sam Rivers, and I was in part of the free music scene in Seattle in the 60s. So I played a lot of that music. This Light Has No Darkness doesn't resemble that, but it's part of the path that brought me to this place of This Light Has No Darkness. And of course, This Light Has No Darkness it means just that. This particular light has no darkness, or this light is the truth.
Lovely.
Without arguing about religion, or because I won't argue about religion. Everyone has a choice to make in their lives and the freedom to do what they would like to do. My dad told me something I've never forgotten. I haven't really lived up to in my life's path. I'm 82 years old now, So up to this point, but I've been stronger in the later years. My dad says everyone responds to kindness. That's a big one, you know. And as you know, jazz is full of good manners, of allowing a person, if they're playing a phrase, you know, they start this phrase, and I'll hear this, and I might have heard something prior to that was going to move in that direction. But when I hear this, I have to put on the brakes and allow the Mack truck to go, and then I can make the right hand turn, so to speak. You know, you have to be quick to allow individuals to hear what they want to hear. And that's where my response has to add to that music. A lot of time, most times, by not getting in the way.
Well, you just gave me a David Friesen quote. Jazz is full of good manners.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And when you're playing with someone who too often has bad manners, I think that person is removed from your phone list, at least in my experience.
Yeah, I mean, when that happens, that means person's too full of self, is too involved in himself or herself, you know. And my attitude about that is this: it might work for someone else, it doesn't work for me. But I mean, I have played with, mentioned no names, or whether they're famous or not. I have played with some people that are amazing. I mean, technique is just out of sight and everything, but they don't listen at all to what's happening. So that's something I can't play with or use in the music that I play. So, but I, you know, everyone has a way they want to do things. Try to stay clear of any judgments or anything. And also putting people down. I mean, like, I'm not even putting that person down that doesn't listen. It won't work with what I do. But the way I see it, Monk, is that everyone's trying to do their best. We're all human. You know, we're all trying to, I think, do our best. And to play music, we all want to be appreciated. So whatever I can do to help that, no, I try to do. You know, I won't. I've been asked, what do you think of this player and that player? And most times these players that they're mentioning are incredible players. You know, it's just amazing, you know.
Well said. Are you able to turn off the music machine in your mind when you need to?
I don't have a music machine. If I did, I'd get it operated on. The music machine in my mind? I've never heard of that before.
Well, I worked a long time on that phrase.
The music machine.
I don't know where that came from, but I know that I get these things like we both are dog owners, and I walk my dog twice a day, and I get these things going on in my head, like especially if I'm working on an arrangement. So I'm walking the dog down the sidewalk, and I've got this stuff, and I'd like to stop it, I think, and I don't know. I wonder if that happens to you.
Well, you bring back something that I did when I was going to New York. You know, from Portland, Oregon to New York City, it's almost 4 days nonstop with another person, stopping for gas, stopping for food, but not staying overnight. So from Portland to New York, and I've made that trip 26 times in my life. And I remember driving back to New York a few times, and I had record dates on Inner City Records. This is in those early
I remember
periods.
Irv Kratka.
Yeah, exactly. Is he still with us?
I don't believe he is. No.
Oh,
I'm not sure, but
okay.
I did meet him once.
Anyways, I would compose the music in my mind, arrange it, and by the time I got to New York City, I had all the music I was going to play and knew how I was going to play it at that time.
Wow.
That sounds like a contradiction, but this was in the early years. Um, Now I don't arrange my music; it's arranged as we play it. I don't go on with any preconceived way of, of playing because that would be boring for me to do it the same way each time. Even the heads can be altered a little bit. That's why I tell the people playing it, just here's the music. I want to hear how you play my music. I don't want to tell you what I want or how I play it. I want you to, you're a great musician, bring to the table your greatness, that kind of thing. But
This
at that time, I did that. And on the way to New York, that's what I would do. And as you said, the music machine in my mind, I didn't think of it as a machine uh, of gears and stuff like that. It was more of a freedom to it than machine. But I hear you.
in this sense of freedom and playing in the moment, does what happened 30 seconds ago and what might happen next enter into being in the moment? If you're in the moment and you feel like playing something, does it ever occur to you that I've already played that lick 4 times, or doesn't it work that way?
No, I don't think of that. I don't think that I've played it before. Um, I have to stay in the moment. And if I think about that, then the music has stopped. Time goes on. That sound, where is it? It's in the past because we're moving through time, and that's reflective of the time we're moving through. An example, symbolic of the time that we're moving through. That's in the past now. This is how fast we're moving through time, and we have clocks that tell us that in seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years. So the moment I'm playing music, and if I'm to stop and think, I hear myself playing a lick that I just played. For instance, I think that's what you're saying, an idea. That means the music is stopped. The rest of the band can't say, oh, stop. Friesen is thinking of something. It has to move on. And I've trained myself to do this. Like when I go and pick up my bass, what some people would call noodling. I've trained myself to immerse in the music 100% of the time. Whenever I touch my instrument, I'm into the music. I have to differentiate, I guess, somewhat with practicing an idea. If I'm practicing an idea, I'll give it a chance. If I don't get it right away, I just forget about it. I don't keep trying to put a round ball in a square hole. I find ideas that come naturally and fit and work. And most of that comes from music I compose, learning to play the heads, Takes me into really some strange fingering, where I'm having to play thumb down in first position on the bass, whatever it takes. But no, when I'm actually playing, I can't do that. I'm just immersed in the moment. The only thing that would get me out of that is if someone with a tray of dishes dropped them right in front of me, and I probably would stop it. That would get me out of it. I've had to do this, Monk, um, because I never thought of myself as this great player at all. I don't think about things like that. How it's that's why I wrote that listening is my life preserver and the ocean of sound. Without it, I drown. It's like I'm in Portland, Oregon. I look up on a clear day and I can see the sun. And from this vantage point, I can take that sun and place it inside Portland. Metropolis of Portland is big enough to bring the sun. But if I were to take a trip to the sun, the closer I get, the larger the sun becomes and the smaller I become. And that's the way it is with music. The closer I get to the core of music, the smaller I become. And that listening, I'm hanging on for dear life.
Very interesting, David. Thank you. Last question. I looked at your calendar online and you seem to have frequent gigs, working a lot. Do you ever have days where you wish you weren't working? And what do you do to sort of get up for that gig? Or maybe you don't. Maybe it's just
I've never had that problem. I always look forward to playing, and yeah, I had a family to support. So when I had the four kids, my wife and the four kids, and she wasn't working, I was making. I'm telling you, man, making a living working as a jazz musician is like walking on water, and I was able to do it because of my faith in the Lord. I was able to do it, but it's like walking on water. I always enjoyed playing so much. I never had that feeling of it being a burden on a particular day to have to go play. So it's something. I've never really ever played gigs that I didn't want to play. I've turned down some gigs because of the location. And you know, there've been some places that I knew they weren't going to listen, or it wasn't right for me to go into. You know, I remember Eddie Henderson called me when the Headhunters were getting ready to play, and he wanted me to play the bass. And it says, I can't do that. I mean, I haven't followed that kind of music. I'm just not the right person for that at all. He was trying to convince me I was, but I knew I wasn't, you know. So I stay in my little small area of where I can play my music. And that's, you know, not going to impose and have some great musician with that kind of chops to play that music. I'm not going to get in his or her way. That wouldn't be nice.
Well, you remind me here at Hamilton College, the motto of the college is "Know thyself," and it sounds like you do. Well, I want to thank you for your time today. This has really been a joy to learn what's going on. I won't call it a music machine, but up here. And
are you a professor at the school?
No, I'm not a professor, but I have taught saxophone here, and I run this jazz oral history project.
Because you have such great questions, you know. I mean, really well thought out questions, you know.
Well, you have well thought out answers, I have to say.
Different, maybe.
Different, yeah. Well, thank you for your time, and best of luck with your ongoing experiments at the piano and on the bass. And I thank you for your time today.
I always look for melodies. I love melodies. I love melodies.
When I listen to how do you pronounce the Neves?
If you backwards, it's 7.
So is it Nevis or Nevis?
Knees. I call it knees.
Neves. Well, I liked it because it has two hooks right away. It has that hooky bass line. And when that orchestration comes in with those, that pizzicato stuff, man, that's like, oh, it's so ear friendly.
This light has no darkness, you're talking about, right? That version.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, I did not orchestrate that music. I composed all the music. I did some of the arrangements. The orchestration was done by Kyle Gordon, who was one of, I think, 5 orchestrators for the Oppenheimer film that won an Academy Award. He's he's not so young, he was young, or everyone's younger than me. My dad always told me, son, always have respect for your elders, but I'm finding it more difficult all the time finding anyone older. But anyways, he's a great young orchestrator, a graduate of UNT, University of North Texas, which has a great jazz program, as you know. And so he did the orchestrations for that. And he did such a great job.
Wonderful.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you wanting to interview me. Did we get everything? We got it all done?
We got it. And I hope that someday you get in my neck of the woods so I can hear you perform live.
Yes, I will definitely let you know when I'm usually I'm flying over you on my way to Europe. I've spent many years, a lot of time in New York, and it's such a the East Coast. It's a great place to be. I wish I could be there more. It just doesn't work out right now.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Monk.
Okay.